We are moving on to lesson 6, Beliefs of Judaism. Please open your digital notebook from your Google Classroom. While you are waiting for that to open, please go and open your e-text in Savas. Remember, if you cannot get Savas to open, sometimes it won't. If you cannot get it to open, please just watch this video and you will have Savas right here. Beliefs of Judaism.
Lesson 6. Beliefs of Judaism. God's covenant with the Israelites and God's commandments for God's people are described in the Torah. They form the basis for the Jewish religion and its teachings. These teachings mainly have to do with how people should relate to God and to one another.
Let's watch this video, The Central Beliefs of Judaism.
Many of the teachings of Judaism have to do with how people should relate to God and to each other. Let's take a look at some of Judaism's key teachings. First and most important is ethical monotheism. As you know, monotheism is the belief in only one God. But do you know what the word ethical means? If you're ethical, it means that you choose to do good because you know the difference between right and wrong. A basic teaching of ethical monotheism is that God tells us what is good or bad, right or wrong. God is the rule maker. That leads directly to the second key teaching, observance of law. Starting with Abraham's covenant with God, the Israelites believed that they had a binding responsibility to obey God's laws and commandments. They also believed that these laws applied to everyone, from their leaders to the common people. Love for others is an idea best summed up in the words, love your neighbor as yourself. This instruction is sometimes called the Golden Rule. People who follow this teaching strive to treat others in a way that they would like to be treated. They try to be generous in times of need and respectful of others' beliefs. Jews observe a weekly day of rest, or Sabbath, when believers should not work but pray and honor God. This is stated in the Ten Commandments. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. The word Sabbath refers to the seventh day of the week. Judaism defines the Sabbath as from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. Judaism teaches that its followers should have a commitment to study and prayer. Study so they can better understand the teachings and laws of Judaism, and prayer so that they can communicate with God. Through the centuries, Jewish religious scholars or rabbis collected oral laws and wrote commentaries or discussions about the Hebrew Bible and laws. These became a book called the Talmud, which is studied today and still discussed today. Judaism has a strong connection to the land of Israel. Key to Judaism is the belief in God's covenant with Abraham, which gave the land of Canaan to the Israelites. This land is the modern-day country of Israel and home to Judaism's most sacred sites. Why do you think these teachings have endured through so many centuries?
All right, moving on. We have our 6 vocabulary words and our 2 academic vocabulary words. So we need to look at these words. Prophet, person believed to be chosen by God to bring truth to the people. Rabbi, Jewish religious teacher. Talmud, collection of oral teachings and commentaries about the Hebrew Bible and Jewish law. Righteousness, acting or living in a way that is ethically right and obeys God's laws. Justice, fairness or fair treatment. Sabbath, that is a weekly day of rest. Commentary, a set of comments or a recorded discussion about something. And individual, having to do with a single person or thing. So let's click next one time if we're looking at Savas. Go ahead and take, well, there's 8 words on pages 1 and 2 for your definitions. I will give you between 5 and 8 minutes to define these. please use that PowerPoint definition, which is also the definition used here in Savas. Pause my video and go ahead and get those defined now. Moving on to the Hebrew Bible. We are on page 3 of our digital notebook. Notice the first question is highlighted in yellow and the answer is circled in yellow. So let's listen to this first paragraph.
The Hebrew Bible. The written tradition is very important to Judaism. Jews greatly value scholarship and learning. In fact, Jews are often called people of the book. The Torah and the larger Hebrew Bible are Jewish sacred writings and are the source of Jewish teachings. The Hebrew Bible is also known as the Tanakh in Hebrew.
First question, why do Jewish people study the Talmud and Hebrew Bible? So why is the Bible important? In this circled yellow paragraph, you will find that answer. Pause my video and get that now. Moving on with our lesson.
To Jews, the Hebrew Bible is not just a history of their ancestors. They believe it reveals God's will as carried out in human events. This shared account unites Jews all over the world with a common set of teachings. The Hebrew Bible also forms the basis for the Christian Old Testament, which includes the books of the Hebrew Bible, but in a different order.
Number 2, in what way does the Hebrew Bible unite Jews worldwide? You will find the answer in this pink highlighted paragraph. Pause my video and get that now. Let's continue on.
The Hebrew Bible describes events believed to have happened hundreds of years before the Bible was put into writing. The books of the Hebrew Bible are divided into 3 sections. The Torah. As you have learned, the first 5 books of the Hebrew.
Let's go ahead and look at this picture before we get into the 3 different sections of the Hebrew Bible. So, number 3 on page 3 of your your digital notebook. Analyze this image and cite evidence. What detail in this photograph shows the boy is reading the text with great care? So in other words, how can you tell he's reading it very carefully? Look at this image and get that answer now. Let's move on to page 4 in your digital notebook.
The Torah. As you have learned, the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible are called the Torah. The Torah begins by telling the story of God's creation of the world and the first people. It tells of a man named Noah, who escaped a great flood on an ark, or boat. It tells of the life of Abraham and God's covenant with him. The Torah then focuses on Abraham's son Isaac, his grandson Jacob, and Jacob's descendants, the Israelites. The Torah follows their journey from Egypt back to the Promised Land. The Torah is also called the Law of Moses because of the many rules and laws it contains.
Number 1, the Torah is another name for the what? You will find that answer in this circled yellow paragraph. Notice this is a quiz question. Pause my video and get that now.
The Prophets. The next section of the Hebrew Bible is called the Prophets. This section contains books by or about Jewish prophets. A prophet is a person believed to be chosen by God as a messenger to bring truth to the people. The prophets were preachers, poets, and reformers. They reminded people to obey God's laws. In so doing, they told people how they should relate to God, to other people, to the land in which they lived, and even to themselves. The Prophets traces the history of Judaism and the Jewish people. Beginning with the book of Joshua, this section continues the story of the Israelites from the Torah, describing their arrival in the Promised Land. Other books deal with the creation of the Kingdom of Israel.
Question number 2. The Prophets section in the Hebrew Bible contains books by or about who? In the pink section of this paragraph, you will find that answer. Number 3, the prophets were, in the green section, you will see this is worded word for word. Who were the prophets? Let's move on to page 5 of your digital notebook. We're looking at the writings.
The Writings. The last section of the Hebrew Bible is the Writings. This section includes great Hebrew literature, such as the Psalms. Psalms are poems or songs offering praises or prayers to God. The Writings also include the book of Proverbs. It contains wise sayings. Many give advice to young people, such as this example. Primary source. Do not envy a lawless man, or choose any of his ways. Proverbs 3:31. Other writings tell about heroes, such as Esther, Ruth, and Job. The writings also contain books, such as Chronicles, that provide a history of the early Jewish people.
Page 5 of your digital notebook, number 1. Notice it is a quiz question. 3 sections of the Hebrew Bible are the Torah, the prophets, and the what? You will find that answer in this circled yellow paragraph. Moving on to page 6 of our digital notebook, we will click Next. If we are starting from the beginning, you will need to click Next 2 times to get to this page.
What is the importance of law and learning? The Hebrew Bible and commentaries on the Bible are vitally important to Jews. They are important because they are the source of Jews' most important teachings, including teachings about ethics, laws, the Talmud, and commentaries. Respect for God's laws is basic to Judaism. The great leader Moses is known to Jews as Moses our teacher. The Torah contains many laws in addition to the 10 Commandments. Many of these laws give directions for religious rituals. Others describe how to have a fair society, how to help those in need, and even how to protect the health of the community through cleanliness and sanitation.
Question 1. The Torah contains what 2 things? You will find that at the beginning of this highlighted blue paragraph, because the second question, what do these laws do? I want you to give me 2 things. That is in the second half of this same paragraph. So page 6 of your digital notebook, question 1 and question 2 are both in this blue highlighted paragraph. Get those answers and come on back when you are finished.
Many centuries after the time of Moses, prominent Jewish rabbis or religious teachers recorded oral laws that they believed had come down from the teachings of Moses. Other rabbis discussed how laws should be interpreted in different situations. Eventually, they wrote down their commentaries or discussions about the laws. The Talmud, a text finished around 600 CE, is a collection of oral teachings and commentaries about the Hebrew Bible and Jewish law. Jews still study and discuss it.
Question 3, I want you to analyze this picture. Based on this picture, what ceremony is the focus of the laws shown on this page? So if you are looking at this picture, what ceremony do you think is happening?
Jews still the need to study. The Hebrew Bible and the Talmud are central to Jewish teaching and practice. As a result, Jews value the study of these religious texts. Jewish scholars still write commentaries on the Hebrew Bible and Talmud today. The Hebrew Bible is mostly written in the Hebrew language. As a result, many Jewish people try to learn to read Hebrew. Some also learn Aramaic, the language of most of the Talmud.
Moving on to page 7 of our digital notebook. I also clicked next one more time. So if you're starting from the beginning, you would have to have clicked next 3 times total.
What are the basic teachings of Judaism? The idea of God in Judaism was unique in the ancient world. In other early religions, people worshipped many gods. They had images of these gods made of wood, stone, pottery, or metal. People believed that each god lived in a certain place. In contrast, the God of the Israelites did not live in stones, rocks, or the sea. God did not take a human or animal form. God was invisible, and yet God was everywhere.
Question 1 on page 7 of your digital notebook. The God in Judaism was what? And he did not live in the stones, rocks, or the sea. What was the Jews' God? Pause my video and get that now.
Primary source. Am I only a God near at hand, says the Lord, and not a God far away? If a man enters a hiding place, do I not see him, says the Lord? For I fill both heaven and earth, declares the Lord. Jeremiah 23:23 through 24.
All right, let's continue on to page 8 of our digital notebook.
Ethical monotheism. According to the Hebrew Bible, in the Sinai desert, the Israelites made a covenant with God to follow a code of laws, including the Ten Commandments. Along with the Ten Commandments, Jewish people follow other teachings from the Torah, as interpreted by the Talmud and other commentaries. Many of these teachings have to do with ethics. Ethical monotheism is probably the most important teaching of Judaism. This is the idea that there is one God who sets down ethical rules, or rules about right and wrong. Being faithful to God means following these rules.
Number 1, as you can see, is on the quiz. The shared belief in a single God who lays out ethical rules or rules about right and wrong is called what? You will find that answer in this circled yellow text under ethical monotheism.
Righteousness and justice. Ethical monotheism calls on Jews to know the difference between right and wrong. For them, actions should be based on righteousness and justice. Righteousness is acting or living in a way that is ethically right and obeys God's laws. As you have learned, Jews maintain that each person has value and worth because he or she is created in the image of God. Along with individual worth comes individual responsibility to God. Each individual has the responsibility to act righteously in God's eyes. Righteousness was a key concern of the prophets. For example, they reminded people that they needed to be honest and kind to each other. They criticized rulers who were cruel to the poor and weak. They urged people to work for justice, fairness, or fair treatment for everyone. Jewish teachers also expected everyone to help those in need.
Number 2, you will see it is a quiz question. In Judaism, righteousness is, you will find that answer in this circle yellowed text. Pause my video and get that now. Moving on to page 9 in our digital notebook.
Observance of law. The laws and other rules that Jews follow are seen as part of the Jewish people's covenant with God. According to the Torah, God had a special relationship with the Israelites. In return, the Israelites believed that they had a responsibility to obey God's laws and commandments. The Jewish idea of individual responsibility means that these laws and commandments apply equally to every Jewish person. This means that God's laws apply equally to leaders such as Moses and to the ordinary people who follow them. This idea of equality in the eyes of God helped shape modern systems of law. Women in ancient Judaism. In ancient Judaism, as in most ancient religions and cultures, men had the most power. Women rarely owned property, although they did have the right to buy and sell land. Jewish law gave women other important rights and protections, including the right to be consulted about whom they would marry and the right to take cases to court. Love for others. The Hebrew Bible commands, "Love your fellow human being as yourself." Jews are required to help others. As a result, Jews have been involved in many efforts to fight discrimination. Jews also give to charities in response to this teaching. These ideas have influenced modern thinking about basic human rights. Other key teachings. Another important Jewish teaching is to observe the Sabbath, or a weekly day of rest. This belief is basic to Judaism and is found in the Ten Commandments. For Jews, the Sabbath is the seventh day of the week, or Saturday. According to Jewish teachings, this should be a day free from work. Many nations have adopted the practice of having a weekly day of rest.
Number 1 on page 9 of your digital notebook. When is the Sabbath day for Jews? You will find that in this green highlighted paragraph.
Jewish teaching also stresses the importance of study and prayer. You have learned about the importance of studying the Torah and Hebrew Bible and commentaries on them, such as the Talmud. Jews also value prayer as a way of communicating with God. The Jewish people's ties to the land of Israel are also central to Judaism. This is the land that was promised to Abraham, according to the Torah. It includes the modern state of Israel. Many Jews feel a deep connection to this land because of its place in the Jewish sacred writings and Jewish history.
Number 2, why is the land of Israel so important to Jews? You will find that answer in this blue highlighted paragraph. Moving on to page 10 of your digital notebook, we will need to click Next one more time. If we are starting from the beginning, this interactive gallery is 4 clicks of Next to get here. So what we need to do is look at this interactive gallery. You will notice at the bottom there are these dots and arrows. It is going to go through the important holidays that connect to basic beliefs or principles of the Jewish religion. Some holidays are so important that no work is allowed to be done on those days. Many Jews follow these same rules for the Sabbath. So let's look through these different holidays. We have Rosh Hashanah. That is the Jewish New Year and a time for Jews to think about how they can be more closely to follow God's law in the coming year. The shofar, or ram's horn, is traditionally blown on Rosh Hashanah. That is this horn right here. Let's actually make this bigger. The next holiday is Yom Kippur. It's the Day of Atonement, when Jews recognize ways they have disobeyed God's laws and ask for forgiveness. These worshipers have covered themselves with traditional prayer shawls as they worship. The next holiday, Sukkot. A joyous festival follows Yom Kippur. This holiday honors the period when the Israelites wandered in the Sinai desert. Sukkot is also a harvest festival. The worshippers are holding stalks of grain. The next holiday, Hanukkah. It is the festival of lights. It is an 8-day holiday that is not mentioned in the Hebrew Bible, but is marked by celebration and gift giving. Next holiday, Purim. On Purim, Jews remember the time when the Israelites were saved from death in Persia. People celebrate by dressing in costume, giving to the poor, and reading from the book of Esther. And Passover. It lasts 7 or 8 days in the spring and commemorates the Exodus from Egypt. It is marked by a ritual meal called a Seder, in which the story of the Exodus is retold. Going back to looking at our questions, which holiday is the Day of Atonement, when Jews recognize ways they have disobeyed God's laws and ask for forgiveness? If you have your Savas open, you can go ahead and look through the holidays and see which holiday. The name of the holiday is at the top. The definition, the description is underneath. So which holiday is the Day of Atonement? Get that holiday and put it right here. Number 2, which holiday commemorates the Exodus from Egypt? Again, you are looking at these holidays. Which one says in the description that it commemorates the Exodus from Egypt? So find which holiday and put that answer at the bottom under number 2.